Hello everyone. In recent days, the world of arts has quietly said goodbye to several familiar faces, artists who once appeared on stage, on screen, and in the memories of many generations of audiences. Some brought laughter, some left behind melodies that cannot be forgotten. Some spent their entire lives telling stories that made us reflect. Today, we will look back at the lives of the artists who have just passed away and the marks they left on popular culture. If you appreciate memorial content like this, please press like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for staying with us. Now let us begin. Chuck Norris, a world karate champion and action star closely associated with the series Walker, Texas Ranger, passed away on March 19, 2026, at the age of 86. The information was confirmed by his family and reported by numerous media outlets. In an official statement, the family said he passed away surrounded by loved ones and in a peaceful state. The specific cause has not been disclosed. His passing is not only sad news for his family, but also leaves a significant void in the hearts of many fans. Just a few days earlier, he still appeared healthy, continued training, and maintained the familiar image of a man not easily overcome by time. There were no warning signs. His passing came suddenly, leaving behind a sense of emptiness that is difficult to define. Chuck Norris was born on March 10, 1940. He began his career in martial arts, and then transitioned into film and quickly became one of the representative faces of American action cinema. His name is closely associated with the series Walker, Texas Ranger, along with many notable action works of the 1980s. Beyond his acting career, Norris was also known as a popular culture icon. His image extended beyond the screen, becoming a familiar presence in media and on the internet, especially through stories symbolizing strength and personal discipline. Just a few days before his passing, on the occasion of his 86th birthday, he still appeared in a training video with the statement, "I don't age, I level up." A familiar expression of the mindset he maintained throughout his life. Over many decades, Chuck Norris not only built a sustainable career, but also left a clear mark as a person defined by determination and discipline. He has passed on, but what he left behind continues to remain in cinema, in popular culture, and in the memory of many generations of audiences. Ronnie Bowman, a prominent songwriter and a bluegrass artist with wide influence, passed away on March 2, 2026, at the age of 64. The information was confirmed in reports published by media outlets, noting the passing of one of the most respected figures in the modern bluegrass community. Ronnie Bowman was born on November 9, 1961. He first became known as a member of the Lonesome River Band, where he made his mark with his voice and songwriting ability. This period laid the foundation for his long-term career in music. After that, Bowman developed a solo career and focused on songwriting. He became one of the most sought-after songwriters in the country and bluegrass scene. His songs were recorded by many artists, helping to expand his influence beyond performance. Ronnie Bowman's music combined the spirit of traditional bluegrass with modern elements. He was considered a figure who helped preserve the identity of the genre, while also creating a connection with contemporary audiences. His compositions were approachable, accessible, and carried lasting resonance. Throughout his career, Bowman was recognized not only for his talent, but also for his sustained contributions to the music community. He left a clear mark through each song and through his influence on many other artists. Ronnie Bowman has passed, but his music continues to be heard as a part of the memory of modern bluegrass. Ernie Anastos, a veteran New York television anchorman, passed away at the age of 82 on March 12, 2026. The information was confirmed in an obituary published in the press, marking the passing of one of the most familiar faces on local television for many decades. Ernie Anastos was born on July 12, 1943, in Nashua, New Hampshire, United States. He had a career spanning more than 40 years in television journalism. He anchored news broadcasts at several major New York stations, including WNYW, Fox 5, WCBS-TV, and WABC-TV. With his steady presence and calm delivery style, he became one of the most widely recognized news anchors in the city. Throughout his career, he received multiple Emmy Awards, recognizing his long-term contributions to television. Colleagues regarded him as professional, principled, and dedicated to his work, though audiences remembered him for his distinctive voice and his clear, consistent delivery of information. In addition to his journalism career, Ernie Anastos was also deeply connected to the Greek-American community and the Orthodox Church. He was considered a representative figure of the traditional generation of news anchors where credibility and stability were placed at the forefront. Although he had moments of unintended incidents on television, he was primarily recognized for a career that was steady and serious. The passing of Ernie Anastos marks the end of a long chapter in the history of New York television. His legacy remains in his way of working, in the memory of audiences, and in the standards he helped shape. Jane Lapotaire, the British actress who won a BAFTA for her role as Queen Elizabeth I in the television series Elizabeth R. 1971, passed away at the age of 82 on March 5, 2026. The information was confirmed in an obituary published in the press. Jane Lapotaire was born on December 26, 1944. She was known as one of the representative faces of British theatre and television. She built most of her career at the Royal Shakespeare Company, where she participated in many classic works, especially Shakespeare's plays. Her acting style focused on psychological depth, with the ability to portray historical figures and complex inner lives. Her role as Elizabeth I in Elizabeth R. in 1971 is considered the peak of her career, but this role brought her a BAFTA award and was highly praised for the combination of authority and emotional depth of the character. It was also the role that helped her name gain wide recognition on British television. In addition to stage and television, Jane Lapotaire also participated in several film projects, but she always prioritized roles with depth over commercial appeal. In her personal life, she was married to director Roland Joffé, later divorced, and had a period of stepping away from the stage for health reasons. Although she appeared less frequently in later years, she was still highly regarded by professionals and colleagues for her dedication and professional standards. Her performances, especially in classical theatre, continue to be remembered as benchmarks of acting. Jane Lapotaire has passed away, while leaving behind a legacy closely tied to British theatre and performances of rare depth, a lasting mark in the performing art. Augie Myers, a legendary musician of Texas and a founding member of the band Texas Tornadoes, passed away at the age of 85 on March 7, 2026. The information was reported by numerous media outlets, and they called him a true Texas legend. Augie Myers was born on May 31, 1940. He was one of the representative figures who shaped modern Tex-Mex music. He began his career with Sir Douglas Quintet, where his distinctive organ sound contributed to creating hits such as She's About a Mover. Myers' Vox organ sound quickly became his signature, helping him to be recognized in the music industry. After that, he was a founding member of Texas Tornadoes, together with Doug Sahm, Freddie Fender, and Flaco Jimenez. This band combined many genres such as Tex-Mex, rock, and country, creating a distinctive style associated with Texas culture. A. Meyer's contributions during this period are considered a foundation for the development of regional music. Throughout his career, Augie Myers was known as an artist consistent with his own musical identity. He not only performed but also contributed to shaping a sound that carried recognition for an entire cultural region. His passing closed a long journey in Texas music. The legacy he left behind continues to resonate in every melody and in the memory of generations of audiences who once listened to him perform. Kiki Shepard, a familiar face of the program Showtime at the Apollo, passed away at the age of 70 on March 16, 2026, according to confirmation from her family reported by the press. Her passing marks the end of a long journey, closely tied to one of the most important music stages of the Black artist community in the United States. Born on July 15, 1951, Shepard began her career in the entertainment industry as a model and later expanded into television. She became widely known when she served as co-host of Showtime at the Apollo from 1987 to 2002. For more than a decade, she appeared regularly on stage, becoming an inseparable part of the program. At the Apollo, Shepard did not only take on the role of introducing performers, she maintained the rhythm of the show and connected the audience with live performances. Her presence helped shape the atmosphere of the stage, a place where many young artists were introduced to the public for the first time. In the context of the program being considered an important platform for Black talent, Shepard's role carried significance beyond that of a typical host. In addition to Apollo, she also participated in acting and television production, but her most significant mark remained tied to her long time on that stage. The passing of Kiki Shepard is not only the loss of an individual, but also the absence of a figure who had been consistently connected to a unique cultural space. Her legacy lies in her steady presence and in the way she helped keep that stage vibrant over many years. Matt Clark, a veteran actor of American film and television, passed away at the age of 88 on March 15, 2026. The information was confirmed by his family and reported by the press, marking the passing of a familiar face to audiences over many decades. Matt Clark was born on November 25, 1936. He was known as a character actor, an actor specializing in supporting roles with depth. He appeared in many films and television series, notably his role in Back to the Future Part 3, 1990. Although not a leading star, he consistently brought a steady and reliable presence to each role. Matt Clark's career spanned many periods of Hollywood. He participated in a wide range of genres from film to television and was consistently valued by producers for his professionalism. He did not seek prominence, but focused on completing each role thoroughly. His acting style leaned toward restraint, not showy, not overly emphasized, but enough to make each character feel authentic. This allowed him to maintain a stable position in the industry for many years. In the eyes of colleagues, Matt Clark was a serious and persistent professional. In the eyes of audiences, he was a familiar face, appearing consistently across multiple generations of works. His passing closes a long journey in American film and television. The legacy he leaves behind lies not in fame, but in enduring presence and roles that consistently carried a sense of reliability. In Dirty Harry, 1971, there is a scene that is not complex in terms of staging, but is repeatedly mentioned when talking about Clint Eastwood. He stands facing a man with a gun close enough for both to understand the situation has reached its limit. Eastwood holds a .44 Magnum in one hand, raised to eye level, his wrists slightly off compared to the standard grip usually seen. He does not immediately deliver his line. He holds the gaze there, unhurried, and that pause, longer than usual, begins to create pressure on the man in front of him before any action happens. When the line, "Make my day," is spoken, he does not need to raise his voice or appear aggressive. But that calmness makes it clear that everything has already been decided, and the other person has no way back. What stands out in the way Clint Eastwood appears on screen is not in big actions, but in very small details, things that are easy to overlook if only glanced at. He often stands slightly off balance, shoulders relaxed, not tensing up to show strength. He speaks softly, slowly, but each line carries weight. In Unforgiven, Clint Eastwood does not try to hide the character's age. He lets it show subtly and clearly, from the way his steps slow down to the pauses when standing up or turning. But the one thing that does not change is his gaze when looking at the person in front of him, direct and without avoidance. In the scene where he walks into the bar near the end, Eastwood does not need to do much. He simply stands there, lets his eyes pass over each person in the room, and the atmosphere in the room has already changed. There is a very small detail that repeats in many of Clint Eastwood's roles. Before making a decision, he often tilts his head slightly, almost unconsciously. On screen, that action has almost become a familiar signal, enough for the audience to know where the story is about to go. In the context of Dirty Harry, Eastwood appears in a long coat with a gun already in his hand. He does not hide it, but he also does not raise it as a display. The way he places himself in the frame is always direct, enough for those facing him to understand the situation without any further explanation. At a time when American cinema was changing, when characters on screen began to talk more and explain more, Clint Eastwood moved in the opposite direction. He removed the unnecessary, kept only the essential, the situation, and the reaction that follows. Well, the audience does not need to guess or be guided step by step. By simply watching how he handles it, they already understand where the story is going. Over time, these small details, the way he squints, the way he holds silence, the way he stands before others, are repeated enough to become his signature. As soon as Clint Eastwood appears, the audience can almost immediately feel the shift. The pace slows down, the tension increases, and all attention gathers into that moment, even when nothing has actually happened yet. Gradually, that image no longer belongs to any single role, but becomes attached to Clint Eastwood himself. People remember the way he stands, the way he looks, the way he occupies the frame, before they remember the character's name. That consistent repetition blurs the line between the role and the real person. For many viewers, Clint Eastwood on screen and off screen are almost the same, but that stability, in the end, exists only within what is tightly controlled by camera, lighting, and script. Once stepping out of the frame, those elements are no longer there, and at that point, another reality gradually appears, less stable, more complex, and not as easily controlled as what the audience has seen. Before becoming a familiar face with the image of a character who always handles everything in a very decisive way, Clint Eastwood was not someone Hollywood placed much expectation on. He was born in 1930 in Piedmont, California, into a family with a stable background, not lacking, but also without a rising from poverty story, as many might assume. Eastwood was a student who did not fit into the school system. He failed junior high, not because he was incapable, but because he almost did not care about schoolwork. The dry lectures and rigid rules in the classroom were not engaging enough to keep him there. To teachers, Eastwood was never a favored or expected student. They saw him as a typical example of a rebellious, hard-to-control student. Eastwood did not concern himself with that. Instead of books, and he spent his time and interest on old engines, metal parts that could be taken apart, reassembled, and made to work the way he wanted. There, everything was clearer. If something was wrong, you fixed it. If it did not run, you found the cause. There was no vague concept of right or wrong, and no answers that had to be memorized. During this period, there was also a rare image that went against that rebellious nature. Eastwood, sitting alone at a piano, repeating difficult passages until his fingers ached, yet not getting up for hours. No one asked him to. There was no audience. It was simply a long stretch of time alone with something that required almost absolute patience. Entering his 20s, Eastwood's life did not resemble a Hollywood beginning. He worked in the forests of Oregon, where controlling logs drifting on rivers could become dangerous at any moment. He worked as a bar bouncer, where nights were loud, confrontations unpredictable, and any situation could suddenly turn into a fight without warning. The real turning point came in 1951, when Eastwood enlisted in the United States Army during the Korean War. He was assigned to Fort Ord in Northern California, working as a pool lifeguard and swimming instructor, a job that seemed stable and less dangerous compared to what he had experienced before. But in that same year, an event occurred that he would never forget. His military aircraft malfunctioned mid-air and crashed into the ocean. He was forced to swim more than 2 miles in freezing waters in a shark-infested area just to survive. In those life and death moments, Eastwood had nothing to rely on except himself and the iron will to keep moving forward. Later, he called it stark terror, a memory that was not loud but became a psychological scar that stayed with him for many years afterward. Those experiences did not bring Clint Eastwood closer to Hollywood, but they taught him how to remain standing, even in the harshest, most unforgiving circumstances. In 1955, Eastwood officially stepped into Hollywood when Universal Studios signed him. But just 18 months later, they terminated the contract. The reasons were stated plainly. His appearance was not suitable, his chipped tooth was distracting, and his way of speaking was too slow. However, Eastwood did not concern himself with those remarks and did not see them as flaws that needed to be corrected. He kept his way of speaking, his posture, tone and his delivery, even though at the time these were considered weaknesses. At that moment, he was not an outstanding choice, but later, the very things that once caused him to be rejected became his signature, distinct traits that set him apart, impossible to mistake. Clint Eastwood's path did not begin with a major opportunity. It began with his refusal to turn himself into a different version just to better fit the crowd. After being dropped by Universal, Clint Eastwood did not disappear, but there were still no real breakthroughs or standout leaps that audiences could clearly remember. Then the first opportunity appeared under the name Rawhide, not big, but enough to bring Eastwood closer to the audience. Rawhide was a Western television series airing in the late 1950s. Eastwood played Rowdy Yates, a young, hot-tempered character who often had to learn how to control himself. This was not a role that immediately changed his position, but it gave him something he did not have before: consistent screen time in front of the audience. He learned how to stand in front of the camera, learned how to keep the rhythm of each line, learned how each gesture, each look, even in silence, could still express the character's emotions. And more importantly, he began to understand clearly what type of character suited him. The real turning point came in 1964, a low-budget Italian film with little expectation, A Fistful of Dollars. Eastwood accepted the role not because it was a big opportunity, but because there were almost no better options. But it was in that small project that he began to do what later became his signature. At that time, Eastwood did not have his own team, no stylist choosing outfits. no manager shaping his personal image. He chose his own wardrobe, a pair of black Levi's bleached by himself, a poncho, a hat bought from a second-hand store, all combined into an image that was later called Man with No Name. A character not mentioned much, appearing briefly, doing what needed to be done, then leaving, but leaving a deep impression on the audience. And the film later became successful beyond expectations. From that point, Clint Eastwood was no longer a television actor, he became a film figure. By 1971, Dirty Harry moved that image out of the West, placing it into a completely different setting. The narrow streets of San Francisco, where the law was not always fair or able to keep up with reality. The setting had changed, but the man had not. Inspector Harry Callahan of Dirty Harry was not a talkative character. He did not spend time trying to make others understand him, but once he acted, he went all the way. This role was not simply a success, it defined a type of character. Tough, direct, willing to go to the limit to enforce what he believed was right. From that point on, Eastwood was no longer just an actor playing a role. He had become the embodiment of that character type. What is notable is that he did not stop there. Unforgiven was not simply another Western following the old pattern of previous films. His character, William Money, did not appear as a gunslinger ready to act, but as an older man, slower and carrying a heavy past that he himself wanted to avoid. Money hesitates, he pauses before every decision. When he is pulled back onto his old path, things are no longer simple. Every action leaves more visible consequences. Eastwood does not stand outside the story, he immerses himself in the character. Unforgiven, therefore, is not just a film, but a way for him to look back at the image he built and question it again. The film won the Academy Award. More importantly, it showed that Eastwood not only maintained his position but could also change how audiences saw him. At the age of 70, to Million Dollar Baby took him even further. A story no longer centered on strength, but on the limits of a person when facing loss. In the film, he plays Frankie Dunn, an aging boxing trainer, withdrawn, carrying many wounds from the past. He does not open up easily, keeps his distance from others, even those who need him the most. But when he meets Maggie, a young woman determined to pursue her dream, he gradually changes. Their relationship is not loud, but deep and slow. And when tragedy happens, Frankie is forced to face a decision no longer about winning, but about what he is willing to accept in order not to lose himself. The film was later honored at many award ceremonies. Notably, it won 4 major Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actress, Best Supporting Actor. With this victory, Clint Eastwood, at the age of 74, became the oldest person in history to win the Academy Award for Best Director at that time. The film also received major awards at the 62nd Golden Globe Awards, including Best Director, Clint Eastwood, and Best Actress, Hilary Swank. And then, at an age when most actors of his generation had stepped back, Eastwood continued. In 2024, Clint Eastwood returned as a director with the film Juror No. 2. Returning in a different role, Eastwood does not make films in a loud or attention-seeking way. The film does not rely on sudden twists to shock. Instead, the feeling settles gradually as the audience realizes that there is not always a choice that can be called right. In his 90s, he still keeps his familiar working method. Few takes, minimal retakes. He focuses only on what is necessary, everything handled cleanly, precisely, without excess. There is no sign of stopping. Clint Eastwood does not move forward in a straight line. He changes to adapt to each phase. And each time, he continues, moving forward with a better version of himself. There is a clear gap between Clint Eastwood's on-screen image and the life behind the camera. Unlike his career, Eastwood's personal life did not have the same stability. It was more fragmented, more complicated, and at times moved in directions he could not control. One of the rare moments when that became public was in 1989. Eastwood entered a lawsuit with Sondra Locke, who had been with him for 14 years. What had previously been kept private began to surface in public. No longer the familiar figure on screen, he appeared in the courtroom in a completely different role. What had once remained within the boundaries of privacy was brought into the open. Personal details, conflicts, decisions in his private life, all were placed under direct scrutiny. The image of a man who always kept distance, always controlled the situation. But it was for the first time pulled into a space he could not shape. But that was not the hardest part. Years later, Eastwood faced a truth he had never known before. He discovered that he had a daughter, Laurie, who had been given up for adoption at birth. For 64 years, he had no knowledge of her existence. That information did not come with noise. There was no public controversy. But the impact it left was unmistakable. It was not simply a matter of finding a family member. It was the realization that an entire part of his life had passed without him. Years, milestones, moments he should have been there for. A gap that could not be filled. Eastwood later accepted Laurie and brought her into his life. But that did not erase what had been lost. It only showed that he chose to face it rather than avoid it. At over 90 years old, Clint Eastwood, for the first time, had something that for many years before that he had not been able to hold on to for long: a true sense of peace. Christina Sandera entered his life quietly, without noise, not belonging to Hollywood, and for nearly a decade, she became the anchor that helped him step away from the familiar rhythm of fame and work. Not much was said, but Eastwood's stability during this period was enough to show how important that relationship was. But then in July 2024, everything ended suddenly. Christina Sandera passed away due to cardiac arrhythmia related to coronary artery disease. There was no time to prepare, no clear signs beforehand, just an absence that appeared immediately. This time, Eastwood could no longer maintain the steadiness he had once projected on screen. Did those around him notice the change? He grew thinner, his shoulders slumped, he appeared less often, and almost withdrew from the outside world. There was no dramatic reaction, only a prolonged, painful silence. The man who had survived a plane crash in 1951, who had once swum miles through freezing water to stay alive, was now simply existing. Many believed this was the end, but Eastwood did not agree with that conclusion. He became closer to his family, spending time with his children and grandchildren, appearing in everyday moments where he had rarely been present before. And then, work brought him back. Just a few months later, he returned to the film set with juror number 2. Not to prove anything, but simply because he continued. For Eastwood, the film set was not just a workplace, but a place where he could hold on to himself. And he did not move through loss by stopping, but by continuing to live within what he had always done. There is a phrase Clint Eastwood has repeated many times in his later years: "Don't let the old man in." He does not say that to inspire, it is the way he keeps himself in the game. For Eastwood, age is not in the number. It begins the moment a person accepts stopping, when there is no longer a desire to do anything more, when one starts looking back more than moving forward. Old, in his understanding, is not the body, but a state of mind. Because of that, he avoids milestones that signal an ending. He does not celebrate birthdays as a way of marking what has passed. He also has no concept of retirement. For him, work is not something to stop at a certain age, but something to continue as long as it is still possible. This explains why, after everything, success, failure, loss, Eastwood still returns to the film set. Not to prove anything, but because that is how he exists. At the age of 95, he lives in Carmel by the Sea, the coastal town where he once served as mayor. Life is slower, his body is no longer as agile as before, but his mind is clearly still strong. A fortune of over $375 million, projects such as Malpaso Productions or Tehama Golf Club, all of it is the result of decades of continuous, uninterrupted work. But those things are not what keep him going. Family is the most tangible part that remains. 8 children, including Lori, the daughter he only came to know after many decades, and grandchildren have become a part of his life, to which he gives more time than before. Gatherings, simple moments without the distance that once existed. It is a kind of balance he did not have for most of his life. Yet even within that calm, Eastwood does not stop. After Juror number 2, internal reports indicate he is still searching for new projects. There are no big announcements, no plan for an ending, only continuation in the way he has always done. For Eastwood, stopping has never been an option. Looking back at the entire journey, Clint Eastwood's legacy is not only in his Oscars, his films, or his financial worth. Those can be measured. What is harder to measure is the way he has lived his life. A man once considered unsuitable, once dismissed early on, but who did not change himself to fit what already existed. A man who has gone through personal losses, mistakes, and gaps that cannot be filled, and yet still continues, not always strong, but never stopped. Clint Eastwood is no longer the man with no name on screen. He is not only a Hollywood icon, as he is a man who is still living, still working, and still continuing to create meaning, even when the journey has already gone very far.